Hi everyone, my name is Crystal. A few years ago, I had the pleasure to be living and working in Thailand, and very specifically actually on this building. Back then, I was leading and stewarding an incubation team within an exchange where we tried to onboard the users from Southeast Asia to Web3. And today, I also want to share that I actually also live a parallel life where on one hand, I was working on funding space for billions of dollars in the private sector. On the other hand, at night or in the weekends, what I'll be doing is doing grassroots initiatives, supporting microfinance for the smallest micro entrepreneurs in Southeast Asia. So today, I want to share with you innovations that I find highly relevant for Thailand and Southeast Asia. And we start with the first thing. Rice. So I have an Asian stomach. Apart from how I look, I feel a very global citizen, but my stomach is very Asian. But rice is not only important for an Asian from a food and culture heritage perspective, rice actually powers billions of lives. And when it comes to when people ask for support, let's say when I was supporting an orphanage in Cambodia, when they're having fund flow issues, the first thing they ask for donation is actually rice. At the same time, the thing is, rice is not the most planet-friendly thing. In fact, actually, the rice traditional way of cultivating rice involves like continuous flooding process that nurtures like methane-producing bacteria and contributes to 11% in the global carbon emissions. Global methane emissions. And methane is 80 times more harmful in the environment when it comes to a climate global warming perspective. So this is not the most carbon-friendly, climate-friendly thing. And Thailand and Vietnam, in this case, are actually one of the biggest leading rice exporters globally. So there is actually ways to be changing things. And that is to move from the traditional continuous flooding cultivation to a way where it's alternating between wetting and drying. It really is that you would introduce like times where there's actually drying, drainage throughout the rice growing season. And this is able to reduce the water consumption by 30%, which I forgot to mention is basically that it's also rice growing is also very water intensive. The other part is that it also reduced methane emissions by 70%. And that is without reducing the yields. So there's hope and possibilities when it comes to being innovative, even just by a farming method. But the challenge comes from actually scaling it. So when it's scaling it, there is very labor intensive. It requires a lot of field work for months and months to collect all these kind of data. The possibilities is that, for example, in this case, it's an 18-hectare Vietnam rice fields where Mental Labs, an AI remote sensing company, tried to use Earth observations data and coupled with rice mapping algorithms to see if they can actually scope the whole rice paddies that is actually suitable for the transition to AWD farming. And the results actually show that they've been able to identify very accurately with these remote sensing tools and these data sets with an accuracy of pretty much on the right-hand side, where on the left side is the validation data, where the turquoise color is the rice. And on the right side is the AI prediction. It's a bit small, so probably even the 1% difference you are not able to identify, but the results is basically showing that it's very possible and with high accuracy without months of on the site by often carbon project developers to do this manual process to actually automate it with high degree of accuracy. With machine learning, it's also possible to improve this prediction data. So that's one angle, is identify where to do these type of farming. The other elements is actually how do you know that you're actually reducing methane emissions. Then the challenge comes with MRV, which is monitoring, reporting, verification. And in the space, previous speakers already talked about it. This is a very labor intensive and costly in terms of resources. And where there's possibility, again, is when it comes to using a remote sensing data on site factors that will impact methane production. Traditionally, they will be involved actually collecting, using gas chambers on the methane production. But with remote sensing, you're collecting information about the growth of the crops or a site factor that is impacting methane production. And in that, with a predictive analysis, you're able to predict how much methane it's able to reduce. So with these technologies, there's applications where it means that there's possibility of scaling without a huge cost impact. The second case study I want to share that is highly relevant for this region is seaweed. Not just because I love rice and eating seaweed, but now you can tell that I'm a foodie trying to combat on climate change because I'm worried about my food supply chain. I want to ask actually, like, I don't know whether you have ordered things in Thailand from a takeaway perspective. But I spent time here during COVID where I cannot not order Grab because I'm not allowed on the street. And I felt super painful. The painful is that it comes with very, very delicious 5-6 sauces package, but each of them actually comes with a plastic bag. I wasn't able to avoid it at that point in time, whereas when I was in other countries, I was able to avoid it. So there's two things I want to share here. One is the seaweed farming, and two is biomaterial innovation. This company is not in Southeast Asia. It's founded in London. Maybe some of you have already heard about it. It's called Notpla. They spent 10 years doing biomaterial innovation, from whether it's these blobs that holds liquid, or whether it's utensils, or the usual boxes. All of them are essentially biodegradable within days, and all of them are actually made of seaweed. And sometimes they're even edible. So on the left one is actually even edible. So in that case, seaweed is a powerful material that is very welcomed, not just for bioplastic, but then nowadays people know more about this superfood and also investigating on biofuel. So this growth in seaweed demand is welcome because actually seaweed is regenerative. Seaweed is regenerative by nature because with seaweed there is more biodiversity introduced in that region of the marine space. It's able to help in terms of carbon sequestration on capturing carbon for the ocean. So it's a super powerful crop. And this project and this company is called Coast for Sea. Coast for Sea is an Earthshot finalist this year. They didn't manage to get the 1 million grant prize, but they're doing something really good. They have been investigating about seaweed farmers and farmer struggles in Philippines and in this region for more than 2 decades. And the latest model that I've came up with is one which integrates input financing, give them better tools to grow these seaweed, and also including working with governments in terms of permits and protective area for the marine space. So in their approach, they are able to help farmers to increase the yields by 4 to 6 times. And the point of having seaweed farming is that it helps them not just to rely on farming fish. It reduces fisheries, farming just relying on fish, and which is still very susceptible for the climate issues in Philippines, of the actual direct impact of the extreme climate. So it gives them a more reliable source of alternative income source, and they also bridge with companies like Notpla, all the way in terms of supply chain. And how it is powerful is that Mostly seaweed are grown by smallholder farmers. They have a lot of challenges in terms of just basic sustaining their livelihoods. It gives them a much more reliable stability for their livelihoods, but at the same time also regenerated the earth because of the seaweed. So I actually haven't thought of how I would wrap this up because I feel like actually I've been working in the funding space for 15 years, half of which involves emerging technologies, of which includes AI, cloud computing, blockchain, all these kind of things. The first project I'm involved in is actually a microfinance initiative. I think people see a lot of challenge and that is like, okay, for example, this one is Asia has enormous shortfall funding to adapt to climate change, warns ADB. Actually, Asia has an enormous opportunity to fund and mitigate climate change. The opportunity lies in that there are problems that people are actually facing that is painful. The struggles for having reliable source of energy, means that a renewable company, if a renewable energy comes in and solve their pain point in having reliable energy, just like, let's say, for example, Earthbond in sub-Saharan Africa. They are able to support SMEs that have actually unstable electricity, giving them electricity source so that their business will not keep on interrupting. The same challenge actually is in Vietnam. Manufacturers or small business holders struggle with energy reliability. Farmers are struggling with crops, extreme weathers in terms of reducing the yields by close to 30% and basic livelihoods. Opportunity lies where we are empowering lives and at the same time regenerating the earth. It doesn't have to be one thing or another. So my question and my thought process for this forum is, how do we channel all these things to people who actually have the solutions? I have worked with unicorn companies and the most high-tech companies. But the story I want to share with you of why rice and seaweed is innovations come in places that it's everywhere. And a lot of times communities are very innovative because they face the challenge themselves. They're very creative with their problem solving. Innovations do not just have to be the highest technology. We have enough people working on the highest and the fastest, most efficient technology. What we lack is weavers. We need more weavers in between that we talk about during Design Jam that weaves in between the technology to the communities that is needed. And how does community principles, where they have very innovative technology, they may have built their own biofuel generator that is perfectly sustainable, how can we help them? For example, this project I talked about seaweed farming, they have more than 350 farmer sites. They have found a model whereby you're improving livelihoods, at the same time you're supporting a secure regenerative seaweed supply back to the corporates. All these models lack something, and a lot of times, for now, unfortunately, it's still funding. So I don't actually have the answers here. I think what I want to share is that innovations are everywhere. There are a lot of localized projects found the model that is a very holistic model and can be replicated and scaled. Scaling does not have to be that it's homogeneous in like billions of dollars. It can be that we fund models by models in a very grassroots perspectives. And I'm opening this forum to basically connect with me. I'm inviting people who are interested in this challenge or have thoughts to connect with me. I offer different pathways for you to connect with me, and best is probably grab me in the next 10 days or so around. I also started this Regeneration Twitter, because seaweed plus rice, that's how it is right now. Thank you, everyone. I'm not here to present solutions, but I'm telling you that there's lots of solutions, and I'd love to explore pathways of people who are wanting to jam on this. Thank you.